Hey guys, it's Doc from the Gold Hog, and you'll have to excuse the road noise and everything else, but I'm actually up to check on the guys up here. They're running, excuse me, they're running up here and they're on some really good ground, so I figured I'd come up and shoot some of this footage of the mats and so forth, and I got to pick up some stuff and do some maintenance on one of the dredges. But I figured I'd take a second real quick to address something with you, and that is a better understanding of our mats. And sometimes there's a little bit of confusion, and let me go over real quickly. Our mats are completely different than most mattings. There's a little confusion as far as maybe how a sluice gets set up. So let me address that real quick. Most mattings like miner's moss, carpet, vortex, rib mat, whatever you have, they are a subsurface. In other words, they're the flooring. They're the flooring that actually goes underneath whatever you put on top. So you might have miner's moss or vortex or rib, but there's something that goes on top of that. In other words, you have riffles or expanded metal or catwalk grading or something that goes on underneath that, on top of that, and that creates your exchange patterns. And then your matting down below that is what sort of holds whatever's getting exchanged out. And our matting is completely different. In other words, our matting doesn't use anything on top. We don't put anything on top of our matting. So it's just bare mat. And the patterns within our matting are what actually create the exchange zones. It helps a lot, especially when you have rocks and larger rocks, especially in a dredge, but in a high banker too, when you have, half-inch or 1-inch rocks going through that system, and they just flow a lot easier. So that's what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to go up and I'm going to show you. Now we're running a 5-inch dredge just in Georgia, and we're running it really strong. We've got the engines at 100%. We've got a huge flow going through this, and I've got a lot of pitch on this. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a really fast water screaming over these mats, real active exchange, and you're going to see the testing that we do too. And the testing has to be accurate. In other words, we're catching 100% of our tailings for, say, 2 or 3 minutes. We're going through our tailings and we're looking for any losses. Now, the gold we're catching, most of the gold is probably in the 20 mesh and below. So it's like 1/16 of an inch down to very, very, very fine gold, 100 mesh and 150 mesh gold. So that's what we're looking at, that's what we're catching, and that's what we're testing for, because we don't want to lose any gold, but we're also realistic that 200 and 300 mesh gold I'm not worried about really in this dredge. I'm worried about the gold that has weight to it. So I'm going to take you up and I'm going to show you this matting running, but I wanted to make sure that it was clear that there's a difference between a subfloor matting that something goes on top of, and then our mats, which you don't put anything on top of. You don't put expanded, you don't put riffles, you don't put anything on them. Now, sometimes you can use the UR mat. The UR mat can be used under riffles or under expanded, but really we found through experience the best thing is to leave the mats bare, leave them open, leave them exchanging, and just let them roll. And we have plenty of testing on our YouTube page. We have over 90 videos where we show some of the extreme testing that we do with our mats, and very controlled testing too, especially for field condition testing. So go watch those, watch some of them, and you'll see what we do. Hey guys, sorry if it's a little bit loud, and I'm about to take you over to the dredge, the big 5-inch, and we're getting ready. We're running this new combination of all RiverHogs, of a total RiverHog mat, reverse cut, forward cut, back cut. But this is how we test this thing. Now we have the water screaming over this dredge mat, just bare dredge mat, except for a little piece on the top. And this is how we do our test. We grab 100% of our tailings, pan that down, pan it down painstakingly. So I'm going to show you us catching it real quick. And by the way, we're on some beautiful, beautiful bedrock right now. So there's a piece of bedrock right over in here. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And we just started punching this hole. It's on this big gravel bar over here, and we're right on bedrock, and it's all shelved down. they're going to go ahead, and what they're going to do is they're going to capture 100% of the tailings. We're going to take this big tub, and we're just going to capture 100% of these tailings for, you know, probably a good 2 minutes or so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pan this down myself. That's not easy to do. So if you think this testing is easy, let me show you. This is about 3 or 4 minutes. And I got a pan. I'm going to take all those big rocks out and I'm going to pan it down, and I'll show you what this is. Alright guys, so this is what we're finding pan after pan after pan. We're finding a ton of fine black sand on the tailings, and we're not finding a single drop of gold. I mean, not a speck, which is great. I mean, well, eventually some's going to get out, that's fine, but I'm just talking about, these are the test pans that we're doing, and we're not seeing anything in it. That's really good. What this is telling me is that I'm catching 100% of my tailings on real pretty bedrock, 3 or 4 minutes of tailings, panning it down, panning it down, panning it down. This is a 30-minute process, and we're not seeing a single speck of gold in our tailings. At some point during this run, yes, some gold's going to come out fine, but this is what I want to see. This tells me that my capture rate, I mean, I'm up well over 98%. Now this is a 5-inch dredge. I'm screaming water down it, and we're catching tons of 50, 100, and even 150 gold in this thing. Real nice. Whew. All right. We just took out, we were shaking it down and shaking it down and shaking it down. We just took out all these huge rocks out of here. So I should be able to scrape this away and get down to the heavy black sand and gold down here if there is any. But this is exhausting. This is about a 30-minute process just for testing. So here we go. Okay. Thank God I finally have a loss to put on film. This is test number 6 today without any gold. Now we're on really good ground. I mean really good ground. And I have 2 losses from that last test. There's one. And there's the other. They're both right at 100. So thank God I was like, man, I better find a piece of gold in here because I need to put a piece of gold loss on camera here. So I've got 2 losses, and we're on really good bedrock. So, and we'll catch. The funny thing is I don't see any of like the 150 mesh, but we'll catch tens of thousands of these things, these little pieces here. So all in all, man, that's bright. So all in all, that's a really good test run. Like I said, this is exhausting work. I don't know if you've ever done this. If you ever caught 100% of your tailings from a big old dredge, it's exhausting work because you just got to lug that bucket around. And like I said, we've done 6 of this, and pan after pan after pan. I finally found 2 losses. I was going to keep going until I saw some losses. So that's good. Glad to see them. Alright, so what I want to do real quick, we just shut her down. I want to show you what this mat looks like. A lot of people don't understand what the mat looks like in a dredge. So now this is RiverHog, and I've got this RiverHog cut down real short. And it's a real high velocity, but I've got a throw and a cut riffle. And what you'll be able to see is that when I have a throw riffle, I have a little bit more material behind it than I do the cut. And the cut usually has a few bigger rocks behind it too. But it's not all that much different because they're real short. Really, on this mat, you can see how bare it is up top. It's pretty bare up there. But there's all kinds of black sand behind the riffles in here. And I'm going to keep the camera here, and as we sort of wash it down, I'll show you some of the gold in the mat. Okay, so we've started to pull this mat out. And you can see it's a big old mat. It's 9 feet long. And the last 3 feet of it, I really was just not seeing much. The last 3 feet of this mat, barely anything, just a little bit of fines. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to get up maybe 2/3 of the way, and I'm finally starting to see a piece of gold. I don't really know if you can be able to see it. I finally saw my first actual piece of gold right there. And we actually see a nice little piece further up, but this is what you'll see. We see a ton of our gold up at the top of this mat. It concentrates down, gets less and less and less and less. Now Joe, Joe's been out here and he's got hundreds of hours of dive times, and Joe's the guy that cleans the mat almost every single time. And what do you see in this mat? Do you see that?
It's right in the very top, and usually right about this piece right here starts getting smaller, but here up we should see really good stuff.
So we see the concentration of our gold, and it's not just big gold, but it's fine gold too. Very much. We see a ton of fine gold. Majority of our gold is in the top, I would say 1/3.
Probably.
Yeah, the top 1/3 of this mat, and then it gets less and less and less down to the bottom. When we check these last strips, sometimes we may see what.
A couple of small pieces.
Like 50-100 or something like that. But very seldom do we see gold down here at the bottom over here. Alright guys, I figured I'd show you this one. That's a nice little nugget there for Georgia. Nice little nugget. Someone's going to get that in their cons. But again, we still got that really upper portion of the mat where it's usually concentrated heaviest. I'm starting to see a little more gold down here. But I'm going to keep cleaning it. Alright, so my main guy Joe's over here cleaning my mat for me. But I wanted to show you while he was doing it. I wanted to show you, you can see all the black sand in here. And you can see that big piece of gold there too.
It's another piece right here. Come on the back side. Get some more.
But really what I want you to see is, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see all that fine stuff in? No, don't shade it. See all that fine stuff in there? What I like to see is look at all that black sand in there. I should call it purple sand, but go ahead and rinse it a little bit. There's the pre-ramp. So here's the big riffle that we've cut, and then right before it, you can see the gold in there. All through here is solid gold. That's pretty stuff. Hey guys, I'm trying to get this on camera for you, see if you can see it, but I wanted you to see some of these fines in here. It's kind of hard because it's a little too bright. Let me try and darken it down a bit. Alright, let's see if this will work here. I think that'll work. I'm trying to get you to see all the fines up in here. Again, this is running the dredge. Bare mats. Now, what you can't see is all the bigger stuff over here. But, I mean, it's probably close to 5 grams sitting in here, but I really want you to see this fine stuff. This is pretty too down here. It's always nice to see the big stuff in there. Hey guys, I figured I'd show you this. This is one of those big mouth bottles, like 5-ounce bottles. But this is from one of our testing weeks. And most of this is really fine stuff. There's a little bit of coarse. I took a little bit of, there were a couple big nuggets in there I took out, but this is 2.1 ounces when it was all in here. It's just pretty stuff.